Welcome to Shattered the podcast.
Sharing the lived experience of mental illness on
a father,
a mother,
A family.
let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go!
Let's go.
if there's one particular thing in life that I'm passionate about, it's about not leaving things unsaid. So today I want to skew a little bit off the path, and I want to just talk about my parents for a few minutes. I've been to a couple of funerals lately, and they're never good. But my parents are going strong. And I believe that they know how I feel about them. But as it's their 50th anniversary, I just want to send out this little tribute to them. I have a complicated life with regards to my mental illness, but I know for a fact that my parents did not contribute to it. In fact, I believe it was the lessons I learned as a kid from them that made me able to survive my mental illness. I grew up in an army family. I was an army brat. We grew up moving from house to house. And the thing of it is army life is not easy. When you consider how often we had to move, how little money that they used to pay soldiers. Soldiers in the modern era, I know because my brother's been one, get to live in modern, well-kept houses. When they move, they don't have to pack a thing. In the olden days, we had to pack everything. The houses were substandard at best. At best. We were always in the most poor area of any city that we moved to, because that's where the houses were the cheapest. And I remember Dad telling me about one house they went into, the army had given them to use, and he walked into the kitchen and his foot went through the floor. What my parents did give us in abundance was love and attention. Now, when you consider that my dad was continuing his education throughout my youth and my mum was becoming an RN, they had the option of not being around a lot. And I think they did a really great job of balancing the fact that at times we needed to be independent. We as kids needed to stand on our own 2 feet, because it stood us well when we came out the other side of childhood. My parents were always available to me. I knew that my parents loved me, but a massive lesson that I learned, and my kids will tell you this lesson as well, is that mum is more important than anybody else in the family, more important than me, and absolutely more important than any of the children. And my relationship with her comes first and foremost at all times. I remember my mum and I used to argue a lot, and things were said in the heat of anger. And I remember once she said something, and I said, "You just said this," whatever it was. And she said, "No, I didn't." And Dad happened to be in the room. And I said, "Dad, did Mum say this?" And you could see the pain on Dad's face, because I had Mum cold. I was in the wrong, probably. I mean, I was a kid. But in this one instance, and you could see the pain on his face, that he was caught in a moral dilemma. Nothing was more important than supporting his wife. But in this one instance, if he lied, it would make him a liar. And I believe, even though he never really talked about it, that honesty is one of my dad's most impressive traits. He was always honest. But I just remember the pain on his face that he had to disagree with his wife on this one thing. And I'm sure they won't even remember it. It's just a tiny little nothing that happened. When I came out of the depths of my mental illness, which came about because of the decisions I made, the job that I was doing, and the lifestyle I was living, had nothing to do with my upbringing. There were times that the only reason I had to keep going was the grit and independence that my parents instilled in me. They instilled in me a strength and a confidence in that if I understand an idea, a concept, a job, that I do it to the best of my ability. And if I can, I do it better than anybody else. Now, obviously, mental illness is not a competition. But there were times where the only things going through my head were that first I wanted to kill myself, but second, my parents would not give up. They never gave up on anything. They never gave up on me. I love my mum and dad. I am grateful to them, and they've been the best parents that a person could hope for. And one last thing. When I was young, I used to point out the faults in my parents, and I would do it often. And it was a jerk thing to do because while some of the things that I was saying were true, my understanding was incomplete. My parents had four kids, living away from family, making friends in every new city that they went to, while they were still under 30. I'm 50 with an 18-year-old, and she drives me crazy. I think about the fortitude of my parents when they were young, and I think about those times that supposedly they failed. And I know that they did the absolute best that they could. And I am so grateful for everything that they did. We all made missteps in my youth, my parents and me. But I don't carry those lessons with anger or pain. I carry them with purpose. Purpose that my kids will learn from the lessons that my parents learned. And the one thing that my kids know is that I'm happy to be humble. I'm happy to be wrong. I'm happy to be sorry. Well, I'm never happy about it. But I learned this from my parents. If they made a mistake, they would say that they made a mistake. And they would do their best to fix it. And with mental illness, having the ability to be humble enough to say to my kids that I'm sorry for some of my behaviors has been one of the main gifts that my parents have given me. Also, how my father loved his wife, my mum. He loves her hard, he loves her desperately, loves her above all other things. If he lost everything, as long as he had mum, I know he could be happy. What an amazing gift that was to give to your children, that desperate, burning, passionate love for his wife, modelled how a man should love his wife. My parents are amazing. I love them. And I wish them another very, very happy anniversary. I love you both very much.
Thank you for listening to Shattered, the podcast. I'd like to thank our producer, Meredith Brosnan, our executive producer, Torian Lau, and the band Adelaide for allowing us to use their song as our theme. Go to shatteredthepodcast.com for more information.